Configure and verify for Netconf and Restconf. Let's talk about Netconf first. It is a standard that was created in order to standardize automation. It works hand to hand with the Yang standard. It is heavily based on the XML language. It uses a client-server model where the server is actually the device you're working with, and your app or your script is the client. It requires secure transport such as secure shell. It is transactional. You can actually work with a set of devices and try to apply a configuration to all of them, and if something goes wrong, the transaction will be cancelled and the configuration will not be applied. So it has that level of intelligence. You can do a lot of things with Netconf, such as retrieving data from your devices, pushing data into your devices, receive notifications for your devices. And if you think about it, it is pretty much similar to SNMP. It will use TCP, and when the TCP connection establishes between the client and the server, Netconf capabilities will be exchanged. There are a lot of Netconf capabilities that will be growing as time goes by, so the client and the server must know what are their capabilities before start working. Netconf is based on sessions. The servers or end devices will have to provide you with at least one session, but they can provide you with more. Netconf works with data stores that live within devices. So if you want to create an analogy between data stores and a Cisco router, for instance, the running configuration will be known for Netconf as the running data store. And the saved configuration or the startup configuration with a Cisco device could be another data store. And Netconf have something that is known as the candidate data stores, where you can create changes, and once you commit that candidate data store information, you can commit that into the running data store. When working with the configuration, you must establish exactly which what is the target data store that you are working with. Now, you can have several sessions. An issue can happen because several users of the same device can be working concurrently with the same data store. So in order to avoid that, Netconf lets you lock your data store, and it will let you unlock your data store when you are finished working with it. And the locks should be short-lived. And your sessions can be closed gracefully or be forced to get terminated. So in this sense, Netconf is better than SNMP because it will use Yang paths rather than OIDs. It uses Yang models that are easier to for humans to see than MIPS, and it will use TCP with a secure transport always. Now, going into details of Netconf into the standard, it will establish that Netconf has several layers. The transport layer is the TCP with the secure channel layer. The messages layer includes doing the RPC calls. The operations layer is actually what you will be doing with your device. Get config, edit config, delete config, lock, unlock, close session or kill session. And the content layer, that means that you are be working with config data or notification data. So when you're creating a call, you will have to establish a message ID, which is a number chosen by the sender, and the receiver will use this number in order to respond to your call using the same number. So this message ID identifies calls with the call's results. You will have to also indicate a namespace and a method. What do you want to do with your call? And the device or server will provide you with a result that can be of three types: a successful result with some data, an error with an error specification, or maybe a successful response without data. In this case, you will only receive an OK. So there are several capabilities that are exchanged when the client and the server communicate. And there is the other standard that is Restconf, which is also an automation mechanism just as Netconf. But the big difference with Restconf is that it will be using HTTP with HTTP operations, and you will find that there are more tools available for Restconf than for Netconf. So you can send RPC messages to Netconf servers, but you will be using HTTPS as transport, and you can map your Yang model into the URLs. And in order for this to work, the server must, or your end device must be able to accept HTTPS requests. Restconf is not only bound to Netconf and Yang, it can be used to communicate with any RESTful API technology. So there are several differences between Netconf and Restconf. For instance, Netconf uses a secure shell, whereas Restconf uses HTTPS. Netconf is heavily bound to XML, but if you're using Restconf tools, you can use JSON, for instance. There are more tools for Restconf, for instance, Postman. In order to configure Netconf, in the Nexus, you have to first configure secure shell, then issue the command feature netconf, and if you want to tune it, you can use the set the idle timeout or the session limit. For the ASR1000, you will also have to configure secure shell, and you will have to enter the netconf secure shell and netconf Yang commands. Don't forget to use the netconf Yang, and you can also tune it with the netconf log time, netconf max sessions, and netconf max messages settings. In order to configure Restconf in the Nexus 9000, you have to enable the web server using the command feature nx API, and you will have to enable ports 80 or 443, and then you will have to enable the Restconf feature using the command feature Restconf. For the CSR 1000, you have to enable HTTP with IP HTTP commands, and then enable Restconf with the command Restconf.